Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I'm here checking out 3 low-cost Vita games today because they were the 3 most interesting that I could find on the store. At least that have been released recently. There have been a few others, like there was another Power game, there was a game called Steam Tactics, which is arguably the most unoriginal name for a game about steampunk-era tactics that has ever existed, and the gameplay didn't look so great either. And there were a couple of others which I really can't be bothered to remember now, but at the end of the day, I did manage to pick out 3. These are all roughly $6 to $7. I think KDD is actually pretty cheap. It's like $3, and Task Force Campus was like $5, but whatever. We're just going to go through them one by one, and we're going to do some quick gameplay, and I'm going to talk about them because I haven't done one of these in a while. And frankly, it's just going to be quicker and not result in 3 videos that are all 8 minutes long that nobody is going to bother watching. So we're just going to hop straight into the first game I played of the 3. I'm going to do this in the order that I played them. And the first is Kawaii Deathu Desu. And whoever came up with that title needs to be fucking shot. That is the most cringe title I have heard in a long-ass time. And this is coming from the guy who had to start out a video with the phrase, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I'm here checking out my big sister." So, let's just wait for it to load, shall we? It's made on Unity, which of course is never a good thing. Although, this isn't too bad on the performance, but it's still a pretty big drag, all things considered. Excuse me. I will at least say some of the 2D animation looks really nice, like the little idle animation going on down there. It's relatively well done. Looks nicer on the Vita screen when it's shrunk down, of course, but well, I'm just looking at it on this big-ass display right now. Not the best loading time for a game this simple, but anyway. I've only played this for about 10 minutes, because that's all I really needed. So, there's a ton of unlockable characters here, and you can also get unlockable skins and upgrade the stats of these characters using souls, which you get by playing levels. But the rate that you get them is so slow that I don't think I will ever be done with it, because it honestly feels like it's meant to take hours playing the same similar sort of gameplay. So we're just going to play with Death Chan. And we've also got a fair amount of levels, but it's all about the same. What do I mean by this? Well, let's just go hop into the first China level. Also, this game really does feel like it was designed for a touchscreen, and some of these button controls just act a little bit weird. Like, I'm using the D-pad right now, and it doesn't feel consistent how much the screen moves over with every press of the D-pad. So we have to play each stage multiple times in order to unlock the next one. Stupid move, but you also need to play it in order to unlock the ranked and insane modes, which is just an endless mode, more or less. I don't really care if any of them are particularly harder, because frankly, this game isn't so much hard as it is just a button masher. Have you guys played One Finger Death Punch before? If you haven't, I fully recommend that you do, because that game is fucking amazing. Original or sequel, it doesn't really matter. They're both about equally as good, so I'll take it. But here's the thing. It's basically, you hammer the left button, or the circle button, to attack left or right respectively. You can also do it on the touchscreen. And you got to take out as many of these enemies that are coming at you. And the game hasn't really given me any reason to assume that it's going to be much different than just hammering away at the buttons. They come at you from either side, and you just hammer away until you either die or succeed. If you don't succeed, just go and buy some more stats with some more souls, and that will probably do the trick. The problem is, a game like One Finger Death Punch, for example, we have to press X to restart here, so we're just going to do that immediately. The thing about a game like One Finger Death Punch is that not only was it immensely satisfying to get the exact right amount of button presses, it would punish you for attacking too often, for hammering away at the attack buttons. Meanwhile, this game here, where you've got all of these guys coming at you from both sides, Not to mention they have the ability to walk over the top of each other, so they blend into each other. Really encourages that you do nothing but mash the fucking buttons the entire time. And it's just kind of unpleasant to play as a result, because it feels incredibly floaty, since you're just chopping through all these dudes with no thought put towards skill other than, oh, the guys on the left are building up a bit more than the guys on the right. It does at least sort of kind of help with the animations being somewhat smooth, although it's a Unity game, so as soon as too much crap gets on screen at once, you know the frame rate is just going to tank and die. At least the rate of soul gathering on this level is actually pretty increased. And you get to keep the souls even though you lose, which is at least a nice touch. Seems like the only way I'd possibly be able to beat that level is to come back here to the main menu and just upgrade my stats. At which point I imagine it'll just be the same cycle. Go in, rapidly hammer the buttons. Maybe you'll live, maybe you'll die. And it costs a huge amount of souls to do it as well. Because of course it does. But we'll see how much of a difference that makes, I suppose. Either way, as a result, yeah, look, it just takes off extra hits. So you just go through them faster. There are multiple characters, but I really don't know how much of a difference it would make. Maybe that special attack that builds up down the bottom will become, like, will have a different kind of graphic. I mean, like, not to mention the main character in the middle herself, but, you know, that's just to be expected. But the gameplay just isn't that fun. It's just endless button mashing with no strategy whatsoever. Even Dynasty Warriors doesn't feel this bad. It doesn't feel this, like, devoid of strategy. Because you still have to figure out what bases you want to capture. You still have to try and build your weapons to be as effective as possible. You still have to, at least, you know, go for some sort of certain objectives. And when you start getting into higher difficulties in those sorts of games, they can become brutal if you make so much as one mistake. Meanwhile, Kawaii Deathu Desu. Throw as many souls as your character's leveling up bar as you can, and hammer away at both sides until they're all dead. And that's the entire game in a nutshell, basically. If you want a game that's something along these lines, but actually rewards precision and, like, relatively good mechanical knowledge of the game, go play Kung Fury Street Rage, if that's still up. Because it's a... Well, I mean, go play One Finger Death Punch, but if we're talking about the Vita specifically, because One Finger Death Punch never made it out on Vita, despite the fact that I actually asked the developer for it at one point, but... You know, that's just how these things go. But yeah, if you actually want to play, like, a game that's like this, but actually has proper strategy in it, and just general difficulty and enjoyment behind it, that doesn't feel like it's just been locked behind a paywall where you have to pay a certain amount of in-game currency, go play Kung Fury Street Rage. It's about the same price that this is, and is way more satisfying in general. Plus, it's got the whole Kung Fury thing going on, which is a lot more interesting than a game that decided to name itself Kawaii Deathu Desu. Although I guess if you want 110% cringe, then you can put this on your Vita. Although it doesn't even say that, like, on the home screen, it just calls it KDD. Although there is an anime girl there, who doesn't even resemble any of the anime girls that are actually in the game. At least to my knowledge. Alright, moving on. Need a packet. Just gonna warn you now, this one's a bit slow and a bit laggy too. Don't be fooled by the Sometimes You animation. I usually don't buy Sometimes You, but this was actually pretty interesting. Also, for some reason, you can only use the analog stick here. The X button isn't actually working. Hang on. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, the other game is just like sound options and language as well. Start. Need a packet. No. Wait, seriously? Well, it's gone and completely deleted my save data. Ain't that fantastic? I closed the game and reopened it to make sure that my progress was saved, but... for some reason, it just completely lost my save data. So that's like a up yours right at the beginning of the video. Fantastic. Well, this is need a packet. So the store description was the main reason why I picked this one up. It's described as a retail store clerk worker in the middle of not so much an apocalypse as in a civilization collapse, where trash is slowly building up on the outside of, like, the city. Everyone's just trying to learn to live with it. And she's trying not to go insane because she's just got a really boring retail job. And the description very specifically mentions something along the lines of she gets attacked by medieval delusions while she's working the checkout line. I legitimately thought that sounded great. Like, what a clever little idea to try and drive home the monotony of working a cash register. But then I played this segment, where it just turns into a really boring scrolling shooter with, like, nothing in the way of just, like, general... well, I mean, it's exactly the same bullet patterns for the most part each time. Like, you're not seeing it here, but when they start introducing bullet patterns to just come out of the screen all the time, it's always the same bullet pattern. So you're always doing the same set of moves, and then those cars will come along across the bottom of the screen, but since they only fire once they reach you and not, like, when they're in front of you, it's easy to just, like, dodge out of the way. And you gotta wait for that thing to pop up there and then press square to move on. You can have a look through your phone for, like, another TV show or what have you, but I'll get to that. So the idea is, you just gotta scan all their items through. Eventually a system, and this comes up on, like, the first day, but eventually a system comes through where you need to start entering numbers into a number pad in order to weigh up a purchase. They'll also ask you if you need a packet. You also ask if you need a packet, I apologize, and then you just press the right D-pad. But there's a few things going on here, and the game doesn't tell you about much of anything that works around here. It's sort of easy to figure out by yourself, but one thing that annoys me is that when you press the select button, it gives you this little help diagram, which basically tells you almost nothing. Like, sure, it's kind of abstract. You can kind of figure it out, but you're better off just feeling it out for yourself, just because I don't know why they didn't just write a wall of text or something. But anyway. People come through, you scan their items, they put their money down on the till like that, and you got to make sure they give you the right amount of money. If you press the square button to hound them for more money, they'll put the money down. Unless, of course, they have put down the right amount of money. In which case you'll get fined. 3 fines gives you, makes you lose some money. And you need money to heal up your health bar up there. You need money to make your house more livable. You need money to get rid of your packets that build up in your house. And packet is the translation of, I believe, garbage bag. Or at least just like general carrying bag, you know? Because the game's obviously got an environmental message behind it. And what's like one of the biggest sources of environmental trash in the modern world? It's plastic bags. But since he's translated it to packet, it took me a really long time to figure out what that meant, because I thought he was talking about, like, a packet of cigarettes Or maybe this is like some weird world where the, maybe this is some, like, the buttons have stopped working again. Why have the buttons stopped working again? There we go. That was fucking odd. Whoop, I did it again. So I thought it might have been talking about like a packet of cigarettes or a packet of assorted drugs or what have you. And here's all the stuff you can buy. Healing potions, more furniture, an extra defender. And max down there, that means get rid of the garbage bags that are inside your house. You also get these emails that warn you about new mechanics that are coming in. And you have to sit and wait for this, you have to sit and wait for this to finish. You can't just like go straight to the scrolling shooter section, which for some reason reminds me a lot of the Ghostbusters game on, what was it, NES? It was the one that Angry Video Game Nerd did a video on. It reminds me a lot of that just because of how boring and uneventful it is. Because once you've seen the first like 10 seconds of the pattern, you've seen all of the pattern. So it becomes immensely boring very quickly. It's also not helped out by the fact that the rest of the game isn't translated very well. It's like 90% okay, but when you get to the point, when the other 10% is just, there's some poor word choices, there's just some sloppy sentence structure. Like, it's very clearly been done by someone that doesn't have English as a first language, which is the case for a lot of these sometimes U ports. And here comes the second set of, bullet hell. See, the bullets that come out of the sides of the screen are the same every single time. But then the cars come across, but the cars are so easy to dodge, it's not even funny. I played something like a week and a half of in-game time of this. And it never got any harder. It just got more frustrating. Especially when you start getting to the things you need to put in the numeric codes for. Because, for whatever reason, they don't let you use the D-pad in this game for any sort of, like, digital selection. They only let you use the analog stick. And even a slight tap of the analog stick can send the cursor flying across. One day a little girl did not get pies. That looks really weird even on the Vita screen. It's a terrible choice of font. It looks like a default font in some kind of game construction kit. Need more money. So yeah, I went through a week and a half of this just suffering through the boring mechanics and not getting anything in the way of like that weird little medieval tower defense style thing that they promised on the box. Or should I say on the store page? And I just got bored. Also, when I quit on the 12th, and then I reloaded the game to make sure that my game saved, and it put me back at the 11th. The game didn't save, despite the fact that I'd very clearly finished a day's worth of work. I will also point out that it gets a bit shitty with like the way the customers start putting down their money. They'll eventually start getting like $100 worth of they'll eventually start getting like $100 worth of goods, and then they'll put down like 2 20s and then a bunch of 5s. And considering the fact that the game's actually kind of laggy and unpleasant to handle, it makes the game feel a bit laggy. Like in a way that's not only unpleasant, but shouldn't really be that big of a problem for a game like this. Then again, it's a sometimes U port. What the fuck was I expecting, right? Yeah, I keep forgetting to give them their packets. See, I'm a tech nerd, so packet means something different to me. Especially when they say, like, hi, no packets. Like you just said there. It's just kind of weird. Like, why would you refer to hi, no, well, I guess you would refer to it as like hi, no bags. But in English, hi, no packets makes no sense when it comes to something like bags. I don't know. It was kind of dumb. Yeah, there's your teddy bear. I don't know what the teddy bear does for you. And see, there's a packet. It even helpfully tells you how many packets you have. You get the idea. I could play this for another week of in-game time, and I wouldn't get any like the really cool stuff they were promising on the store description. So, you know, fuck it. Let's just move on to our third and final title, Task Force Campus, with Agumon in the bottom left, She-Ra in the bottom right, a very unfortunate looking child being pat by an unusual looking granny, and what's the name of that Overwatch character? The one with the rockets, Farah. Farah in what appears to be a green something or other. The characters don't really come into it much, trust me. The epilepsy warning is nice, but at the same time, you've already bought the game, so it's not going to help. So good job, fellas. So here's my high scores. I've only played the game twice because I've already managed to win it once. You can also see your individual kills on all the different kinds of enemies there. No online high scoreboard as well, by the way. How to play? Kill enemies to boost your attack power. You lose attack power and you lose HP. Why is it so slow on this screen? I don't know. If you go to your options, you can go to difficulty and you can change the difficulty if you like, but the game doesn't actually require that you do this because I've got like 70% of its trophies. The only things you need to do are kill 1,000 enemies, die 5 times, and win the game. Although I don't even think you have to win the game, you just need to kill 3 dudes, 3 bosses. So it's one of those really easy to get, whatchamacallits. Oh, come on, I unlocked you! It said I unlocked you after I won the game. Fuck off. Fine. We'll go with green, I suppose. This is the one I won with before, so I might as well play with her again. So it's a bullet hell shooter. I hesitate to call it scrolling because it really doesn't look like it's scrolling, does it? But yeah, here's the drill. You go around shooting things. You shoot crocs you shoot asteroids to save crocs. You shoot enemies because they are shooting at you, and that's a very mean thing to do. Avoid the bullets. Gather the crocs. At the end of every wave, you get a power-up choice. You do also have the ability to level up your guns by, I believe it's landing shots. I'd be lying if I said I knew for sure. It's kind of hard to tell. You don't die immediately, thank God, although you do lose weapon power and HP. However, you can restore your HP by simply not shooting, which is an interesting compromise, but it kind of also means that the game often becomes more just about dodging than anything else. And it's not particularly hard. I mean, then again, I might just be talking out of my ass. It might be harder than you might think because, well, I'm alright at these sorts of games. Not amazing, but I've put a fair amount of time into games like Darius Burst and Soldner and Crimson Clover. So I might be better at this game than most. But considering how you can easily regenerate your HP just by sitting, well, not so much sitting still, as much as just like not shooting. The game often ends up feeling a little bit too easy because as long as you don't get hit too much within a short period of time, you'll be fine. Right, hang on. I'm just going to use my D-pad here. The D-pad is much better for this sort of thing. Thankfully, this game does actually let you use the D-pad. If I stop shooting, I regenerate. And now I'm back to full health. Outside of my underpowered gun, it's not like anything happened. I will at least say this is not only the best looking, but the best feeling game of the bunch. The bullet patterns are interesting and difficult to deal with. Like, they're not overly difficult, but they're still, like, pretty difficult. The shooting and the destruction of enemies is satisfying. There's nothing wrong with the controls, although it definitely doesn't have that sort of, like, grace area that you have, like, dead in the middle of the ship. It's your entire ship, so... Bullet hell people are probably going to find this one a little bit more difficult than they expect, but that's fine. And the game just... It absolutely has challenge. There's no denying that. It just feels a bit weird that I had to get all the way to the hard mode in order to get something that felt more my speed, which meant beating the game once already. Because, as it turns out, the game's only got, like, 6 waves and 3 bosses, and that's it. It feels like the waves are prop gen. Based entirely on the fact that I can just, like, I don't recognize any of the individual patterns going on here. And it just feels weird as a result. At the same time, though, all your ships are so powerful that you can just be coaxing back and forth between them. And by them, I mean the enemies. And just not really worrying too much other than dodging. This isn't like Darius Burst, where you really need to start thinking about, like, ow. This isn't like Darius Burst, where you really need to be thinking about your positioning when you're shooting. You just really need to fire away, and it's fine. And try not get too distracted while you're trying to talk about the game at the same time that you're playing it, which is what I'm doing. As I said, I managed to finish the normal mode on my second try. What's this? Double shot. Not really that impressive. Probably should have just stuck with super. Then again, I guess this helps out more on the monster waves where they can just be all over the place. All the ships aren't really that different. They handle about the same, shoot about the same. I believe it's just their initial power-up that gets decided for them for the most part. You do also have to pick up these Cocos. And there is like a ship on the title screen that says, you know, I unlocked it. I swear to God I unlocked it. The game said I had saved enough Cocos in order to unlock the locked ship, but for whatever reason it just didn't give it to me. There is also a timer in the top right, but it doesn't really seem to come into effect much. Maybe if you just spend a bit too long fucking about, it'll eventually come into it a bit more. I mean, it's competent, but considering the fact that I managed to finish it in... Considering the fact that I managed to finish the game in less than 10 minutes... Oh yeah, you don't start getting your health back until you're not invincible anymore. That's at least a nice touch. Shows they're really committed to this whole thing of, you know, difficulty. Yeah, I wandered straight into that one, didn't I? No health bar for the boss is kind of annoying, if I'm being honest with you. But otherwise, it's okay. It's legitimately okay. I didn't mind my time I spent with it. I wish the other difficulties were unlocked from the very beginning because... Man, it's just... I finished it on my second try. I mean, come on. And it's looking like I might be able to finish it on my third try on hard difficulty. Although this isn't technically my third try on the hard difficulty. But you get the idea. And as I said, it's one of those games that trophy whores love because all you really need to do is like kill 1,000 enemies, get a decent score. Like I've already like gotten quadruple the required like score for the trophy that you need. Kill 1,000 enemies and die 5 times. So you could easily get the platinum for this in like less than an hour. Because hell, I haven't... I might even have it by the time... Oh, well, except for dying 5 times, but... I might have that in like 20 minutes. Everything except the dying trophies. This one isn't a terrible game. It's definitely the best of the 3 that I've played today. But if anything, just, like, wait for something else to go on sale instead of dropping your money on any of these titles. I mean, Task Force Campus isn't too bad, but... I mean, Darius Burst gives you so much more. Soldner will be about the same price whenever it goes on sale again, and... I mean, shit, there's probably something cool along those lines in that page. Oh, it's just extra health. Bugger it. And there's probably even better, well, not so much better scrolling shooters, but even more scrolling shooters in the $5.99 range that are worth your time. And, well, Kawaii Deathu Desu and Need a Packet absolutely aren't worth your time. So, yeah, that's a thing. I'm not saying this is bad, I'm just saying it's not really worth, like, the $5 I paid for it. Although if you force me to pick a game to get again, out of these 3, it would definitely be this one. 2 million points! Normally that'd be an achievement. Or a trophy, for that matter, but... Nope, you only need 200k. I really hate trophy haul games, man. I'm really worried that when Xenocrisis comes out, it's going to be another one of these piss-easy trophy lists as well. Even though there's like a... It's already on PS4, and the trophy list there is not easy. I feel like they go against the grain on purpose just to get the trophy hauls to buy it. Oh yeah, also the performance isn't great, but, you know, it's a scrolling shooter. They definitely do that on purpose. And here's the final boss, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if I can beat the thing. No smart bombs, no other mechanics, no multipliers, no nothing. It's just really basic shooting. And dodging, of course. And quite difficult dodging, but, I mean... Darius Burst is still the gold standard in my eyes. Soldner is still pretty damn good at what it does. Sign Mora, that's a good one too. And that's got a unique mechanic backing it up. But this one, I just... Nah. Damage, 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 damage. Still no health bar on the boss, annoyingly enough. He is introducing slightly new attacks at least. That's not a bad thing at the very least. But the hardest boss is still the second one. Then again, for most people who aren't used to doing the traditional left, right, left, right, left, right dodge dance of bullet hell games, you might find the first boss to be the hardest one in your unskilled opinions. If I may sound particularly full of myself for just a moment. Will you just hurry up and die already? Come on. How long do you need to get your shit kicked in before I... There we go. And that's it. That's the end of the game. I'm done. I'm not done. Huh. They must add new bosses or something. Nah, screw it. I'm done. You've seen enough, basically. You've seen how your entire first run of that game is going to go because you're locked to normal difficulty, which only gives you those first 3 bosses. Although it's entirely possible it just might loop back around and give me the same 3 bosses again, but I'm not going to find out. So overall, Kawaii Deathu Desu, uninspired, cringy, not really worth the time. Gameplay is just brainless button mashing. Need a packet. Bad translation, bad user experience, and bad performance really bring down a unique idea, plus doesn't really know when to bring in the cool stuff. Task Force Campus, the best game of the 3, relatively well polished and generally decent shooting, but there's like 5 other games on Vita that do what it does way better than it does. I wouldn't recommend you buy any of them, but if you have to buy something, Task Force Campus will be alright. Also, as of this video being recorded, that's not actually up on the store. You have to get it through the PlayStation web store, because, of course, they've started doing that again. So yeah, that's basically it. This has been Blue Maxima. I'll see you all next time.